Have you ever wondered how to use intervals to help give your music a certain emotional quality? Hi, it's Simon from Composing Academy, and in this video, I'll show exactly what an interval is and why they're so useful when writing melodies that need to convey a specific emotion. An interval is the gap or spacing between any two notes. In Western music, there are 12 different potential intervals within an octave. Each of these intervals can have a different emotional quality, and each are described using terms such as the minor third, major sixth, or perfect fifth. Minor intervals are typically sad sounding, whilst major intervals are more upbeat and happy. Perfect intervals are usually more ambiguous though, with a very open sound. Composing using intervals can be a great way to help get started when you're aiming to convey a particular emotion in your music. If you're writing a superhero theme, starting with a perfect fifth will immediately set you on the right track and help to establish a powerful tone. When describing an interval in a melodic sense, the interval can be both higher than the original note, or ascending, or it can also be lower than the original note, or descending. I'll concentrate mostly on ascending intervals today. So let's start with the smallest interval, the minor second. The minor second sounds extremely dissonant and can be used really effectively for adding tension to your music. Perhaps the greatest example of the minor second is in the Jaws theme by John Williams, pivoting ominously between E and F. So here I've written a short phrase where the piano melody includes various minor second intervals, both ascending and descending. All of my own examples will start on a note of C, but you can of course start on any note when composing your own. Just make sure the gap between your two notes has the same number of semitones or half steps in order to keep the correct interval. Next we have the major second. The major second doesn't have such a clear emotional feel like the minor second, but instead sounds more neutral and relaxed. Think of the opening notes of Happy Birthday and you'll hear the major second. The major second is often used as a passing note, helping to bridge the gap, say, between C and E. Next up is the minor third, which unlike the major second, has a clear emotional quality, bringing a sense of sadness and a feel of longing to a melody. Think of Greensleeves, and there's your minor third right at the beginning. Let's take a listen to this example I've written. In contrast to the minor third, the major third sounds much more upbeat, happy, and even optimistic. The opening to Oh When the Saints Go Marching In starts with the major third. Here's my example. The perfect fourth has a very ambiguous quality to it. It's neither happy or sad, and so it can be hard to pin down a specific emotion for. It's also an example of where context, such as the tonality of the key that you're in, be it major or minor, can affect the emotional quality of the perfect fourth interval. My example here is in a major key. The next interval up is called the tritone, or augmented fourth. This one has a very dissonant and ominous sound to it, and has often been associated with the devil. Context is everything though, and I feel it can also be used for a comedic effect, especially when played as part of a Lydian mode. Think of the opening to The Simpsons and you're hearing a tritone. Here's my example. Like the perfect fourth, the perfect fifth is neither major or minor, and has a very stable sound, which doesn't feel like it needs resolving. It's often used if a heroic feel is needed, and can also have a majestic and powerful quality to it. Think of the opening to Star Wars, or even the main theme from E.T. Again, like the perfect fourth, it can have a different sound quality depending on whether it's played in a major or minor key. My example here is again in the major key. The minor sixth is, I think, one of the most emotional intervals available to composers, and is great for love themes and music that represents longing or a feeling of sadness. It can also have a mysterious quality, much like my example here. Next we have the major sixth, which has a more cheerful and uplifting sound, perfect again for optimism or hopefulness. The minor seventh is an interval which can be harder to pin down in terms of representing a specific emotion. Some might say it sounds unstable, feeling like it wants to resolve to the octave. To me, it has a tense and mysterious quality to it. Here's my example of a short motif making use of the minor seventh. The major seventh is a dissonant interval, which has quite a bit of tension, due to the fact that it's only a half step or minor second down from the C above. To me, it has a strong feeling of needing to go somewhere, or to be resolved, up to the C above. Here's my example of a piece using the major seventh interval. Notice how I always resolve it up to the C above. And finally, we reach the full or perfect octave. This is the most consonant interval, as it's basically playing the same pitch as our starting note, but an octave up. I feel the octave is ambiguous in terms of representing a specific emotion, much like the perfect fourth or fifth, but it's certainly very powerful and strong sounding. There's a quick rundown of the intervals along with their emotions which I feel they invoke. Experiment with each interval, and if there's a strong emotional feeling that comes to you when playing a specific one, let me know in the comments below.